That's where we're keeping our focus this morning, assessing the fight against terrorism in Nigeria and indeed the sub-region. And we're being joined by Aliyu Umar, who's the retired captain. I want to thank you of the Army, of course. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning. Now, good morning. Mr. President was in Jordan, or is in Jordan, for a counter-terrorism summit to try to see how the sub-region can better be positioned to counter terrorism and terrorist acts. Do you think that that meeting in Jordan is able to come out with the requisite requirement, especially now that there seems to be a resurgence of terrorism and terrorist acts, not only in Nigeria, but in the Chad Basin?
Well, if I am to respond to your question aptly, I remember the King of Jordan mentioned something that is key to fighting terrorism on 2017 Earth: cyber, space, presence, dominance, communication. Where are we on that scale right now? Yes, our president is willing. Yes, our president showed positivity and openness. Beyond that, a lot of work needs to be done. A lot of work needs to be done in ensuring that those things that will add up to our actually breasting the tapes on global expectations are met.
So have we been able to neutralize, would you say, the actions of insurgents, especially for the sub-region?
No, we haven't.
Up to this time?
No, we haven't.
But the government has claimed that they have largely decimated Boko Haram, and what is left is just pockets of attacks on soft targets, they say. Don't you think that that is good enough? But you have a smile on your face.
That's an old song. Okay, it's beginning to sound like an old record. You see, Gimba, the law of progress does not celebrate or regret. Okay? Progress, continuous improvement, is about becoming what next compliant. Yes, we have degraded, decimated like 2 years ago. What next?
We haven't gotten to that level of the next that you say?
We are not what next inclined. You see, let me tell you something about the recent spate of attacks as I have observed them. These guys, for example, the Boko Haram, have gotten it into their minds that it's not easy to go in through the front gates again. The front gates have been shut and clamped, fine. But what about the other small holes in the fence, the loopholes? If you observe, most terrorist attacks do not actually take the form of pitched battles with the army as it used to be pre-2015. The army has gone there and made sure that, yes, we've decimated and degraded, but then that does not mean that everything is optimally in place. What do I mean by optimally in place? Having done that, what next? I recall when the Yanya bombings happened. I recall when the Jos Terminus Market bombing happened. There was need, in my opinion, to begin to bring about a stereotype, a blueprint for gatherings that would last at least 6 hours and have more than 200 people on ground. What's the blueprint for marketplaces? Security blueprint, standard, minimum requirement. What's the blueprint for religious gatherings? What's the blueprint for events?
Captain, are you saying these things never existed or haven't come forth?
The results,
I would assume that they're not meant to be made public.
They have to be made public. The results speak for themselves. Do you really need to tell anyone today that our markets, our mosques and churches are pretty much what they used to be pre-terrorism? Are the law enforcement agencies, and particularly the greatest of all offenders, in my opinion, the NOA, the National Orientation Agency, they speak English on their media jingles. You think the man in BU speaks English, or you think he has light to watch TV?
Are you saying that the campaign against terrorism should be broken down to languages?
Of course, it should be so decomposed that you reach what I call the nucleus of the nucleus, that local village man. We should be able to see the flock we seek to protect comply with the things we do. The flock right now is still itinerant. Okay, so what am I trying to build here? What I'm trying to build here is simple. Having decimated them militarily and degraded them, you're going to